Welcome back to Comics, the podcast where me and my mom talk about our comics collection, and we usually do a Marvel and a DC, and today is just no different, I guess. We've got a Marvel. We've got Thor 334. I think it's from 1986, if I recall.
60 cents?
1983, excuse me. It's right there. I just chose it for the cover, and there's many depictions, I'm sure. I wonder, it would be interesting we do a whole episode of different depictions of Thor transforming.
Oh, that would be
any
cool.
character.
Yeah.
Just how did artists treat the transformation? That might be a cool, fun one. Anyway, this doesn't really tell you anything that the story is about. And this, I mean, technically he transforms between Donald Blake and Thor in the issue, but that's about as specific as it gets. I thought it was interesting to have all the black and gray. I wouldn't normally associate that. I mean, I guess, yeah, he's the god of thunder, and you got, like, storm clouds are gray, I guess. And
Yeah, and...
But I think it gives it... I kind of expected to see, like, Dracula in this one or something. It gives it a gothic vibe.
Yeah, it does. And the
how
expression
he's in black
he
and
has.
white, but Thor's in color.
Well, he's coming to life, leaving his
He lives
boring
a black,
life.
Yeah, he lives a black and white existence. It's like, I wish I was Thor all the time. And in the movies now, the newer version of Thor, he is Thor all the time.
Yeah.
I kind of think that's an improvement, honestly.
Well,
not everybody's got to have a mild-mannered doctor or engineer or scientist or some other cool occupation.
I mean, it's an interesting way to bring the ancient gods to life, but you know, when you're a kid and you're reading about Norse mythology, it's not, this meek, mild man is really Thor. It's like, there's really Thor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, because having like a alter ego, it's like, I guess it helps you imagine yourself or like to identify with the characters of like, well, I'm a regular person. Maybe I could be the god of thunder.
Am I Loki? Am I okay?
Well, it works so well for some characters. Like, that's kind of, I think, why Spider-Man is like the Mickey Mouse of Marvel. Is like even though he's not like the first Marvel creation, or like he's so popular because of his age. He's easy for the audience to identify with, that teenager.
Yeah, well, and I loved his humor. How he was always,
It makes him relatable.
Yes.
He's goofy.
And you wanted to be that guy. Like, if you were being picked on, you wanted to be that smart comeback kind of guy who, could take care of the stupid bullies.
The Flash Thompsons of the world.
Yeah.
Well, I don't get that as much with Thor. I'm not a huge Thor fan, so maybe it's just a bias thing of I've read more Spider-Man comics, so I kind of get how that character's written. But I don't, be like, ooh, what's Donald Blake up to? Like, I could see myself going to an office and wearing a stethoscope and all that.
I remember when my mom would bring the comics home every week, you'd put them in a stack in order of how you wanted to read them. And, like, Amazing Spider-Man was always right there on top. Mm-hmm. And then it would, and Thor was always kind of near the bottom. But I enjoyed them when I read them. I liked the character when I read him, but it wasn't something that I was excited to see every issue.
I'm happy to see that they've made his dialogue in the more recent Thor movies. He's less eloquent and like old-timey in his speech.
Yeah, well, I think that's part
of
due
the
to
mythology.
Yeah, and it's due to the actor too.
Yeah. Well, those early Thors had him kind of have that like pompous speech style, the inflated rhetoric, kind of, but they did away with it the longer the character stuck around. I guess the Earth had an influence on his speech. Yeah,
dumbed him down.
It's interesting for Thor to come from such a fantastic culture in the movie versions in particular, where he's from like this alien world. But then he goes to a world where most people are less powerful than him, and he's like a god among mortals, and he's like, but I really like their popular culture. I'm going to start talking like them and dressing like that. Like, it's kind of a weird, you think you'd want them to come to his level.
Yeah.
It's like, no, man, they've got great music. Oh, anyway,
good point.
most of the beginning pages of this are Thor filling in the backstory here. I do like this transformation. So you know what? They made good on the promise of the cover. This happens in a way. And he goes to the hospital. He's on like the 13th floor. He takes like a fire escape entrance. And it turns out the patient that he's supposed to meet with doesn't even want his medical help because she thinks he's a murderer. Everybody does, in fact. They think Donald Blake killed Jane Foster. I was just talking about her.
Whoa.
So she says, "You murderer." And he's like, "I've really got to get to the bottom of this murderer accusation thing." So I guess Jane Foster disappeared, and she was last seen with Donald Blake, and it looks really suspicious. He refers to it as the Bachelor Dr. Slay's nurse routine.
Jeez.
Like, everybody goes, okay, I've had enough with these murder accusations. Like, take it a little more seriously.
The old Bachelor Doctor.
You know, as you do to people sometimes. It's weird. His eyes are a little, like, cockeyed there. It makes him look a little weird. Yeah. He's got he looks like that old-timey Peter Lorre, the actor with the weird, like, kind of
sneaky eyes.
Lazy eye, yeah. So anyway, another one of these TSR ads with the weird alien hands that I don't care for. And a little bit of a derpy Sue Storm there. He's summoned to his boss's office. He's like, "You gotta stop murdering people. You're giving this hospital a bad name.
What are you doing, murdering everybody?"
They're talking about it. You're talking about it on TV. So I guess Jane Foster is in a relationship with this guy. She had previously been seeing Donald Blake, but it's kind of like the movie where they're like, they tried having a relationship, it didn't work out kind of thing, but they're still friends.
Right.
And in this like hot debate, like one of those, you know, it's like one of the talking head sort of shows. He's talking about how Donald Blake, you know, must be the killer of my fiance. They were engaged, actually, Jane Foster and this guy. Keith Kincaid is his name. And so Donald Blake's boss is like, "You can't be getting murder accusations on TV and still be a doctor here." So he's like, "Okay, I'll take a few vacation days."
In his smarmy pinstripe suit.
I know. This guy kind of reminds me of like a weird Tony Stark character because he's got that like Howard Hughesian weird little like French mustache. Inventor guy mustache. Like, you get that mustache because you really you wanted eyebrows for your mouth. Or you really want to look smart. I guess.
He's upset about, damn, if only I had those.
Prejudging? That is a weird fist pumping. Yeah. I guess he's clenching? I don't know.
He's on it.
And so, let's see. He's saying, "Goodbye, office. Can't say I'll miss you this week." And somebody calls him. "It's Shauna Lind. Boy, you're harder to reach than the president. Don, just what in heaven's name is going on with the newspaper stories about you? Everyone thinks you killed Jane Foster." So he's like, "I gotta get to the bottom of this and avoid getting attention." But as he goes outside, he goes into the alley and he's just about, "Okay, I'm going to turn into Thor." And right before he does it, some paparazzi come and they're like, "Hey, were you turning into Thor by chance? Or did you just see a bug that you wanted to squash?" "Absolutely not."
Is that the stick you murdered Jane with?
Yeah, it's got blood on it, doesn't it? So I like the way they illustrate this taxi coming to a halt. Like the back end is like flipping off the ground. He runs into traffic, and he decides to turn into his Thor form and confront Kincaid, the guy who went on TV to say that he's a murderer. And Kincaid obviously doesn't know that it's Donald Blake, but boy, it just seems suspicious, huh? That the guy, wow, this superhero is really going out of his way to vouch for this doctor that I thought murdered my fiance. Maybe there's something weird going on here.
You don't notice that people are like, "Are you from Norse mythology?"
Oh yeah, we read about you in middle school.
Yes.
You're part of the Pantheon, huh?
Hey, Pantheon boy.
So let's see, I think that's his photo of Jane Foster there. And he talks about how, well, I'm like a self-made man. I had to work my way up through medical school. He's washing dishes. I love this panel. He's washing dishes like on top of the stack of clean dishes. He's got like his med school book and he's like reading it at the same time as he washes. That's like how all boomers wanted you to think that their upbringing was. And like meanwhile, he's also like walking uphill to school somehow while washing a dish and reading a book.
Oh
and
my
he
God.
like worked his way through med school. I don't know. It's making him more sympathetic, I think, because earlier we see him on TV being like, Donald Blake's the worst, but he's got pure intentions. He just doesn't know what actually happened.
Right.
And it's revealed that Jane Foster disappeared through some kind of ritual that they did with Sif. So something they did some kind of ritual with this staff that'll come into play later on, and it was supposed to help Jane Foster. The rune staff, there it is, but she just disappeared like into Sif, like they merged their identities or something, and it was supposed to undo after a certain point, but then Jane never came back. And so he explains this to the guy and reveals his form. He's like, okay, behold,
Whoa.
I'm Donald Blake. And Jane Foster knows that he's Thor, so he lets her fiance in on it just to like gain his trust and be like, look, I really didn't murder her. I'm Thor. I don't murder people. More into saving the world.
Wow.
And so they go get Sif and they say, okay, maybe we can get to the bottom of Jane Foster's disappearance here. And the mortal guy, Kincaid, insists on going with. He's like, they're like, you're probably going to get killed. We have superpowers.
I can help.
He's like, no, it's that important to me. So to his credit, he really wants to find her. First they go to Avengers Mansion, and I kind of forgot about this, but they're like, hey, it's Wasp, the leader of the Avengers, and Captain America. Yeah, did you know she was the leader?
Mm-mm.
At least for a time. Captain America's just like pouncing like a cat in the background.
That's all he
and
does.
she's like, yeah, that's why I'm the leader. He does that all day. He's kind
He's
of
only
crazy.
got two circles of intelligence, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, he was stuck in an iceberg for like 50 years, and now he just pounces like a cat. Like, he's really fast, and he's good at fighting, but that iceberg did something to him. Anyway, the reason they're meeting with the Avengers is they need a Quinjet to go investigate. I love the way Odin's dressed in this. That's a weird costume for Odin. It kind of reminds me of the Simpsons episode where Flanders is wearing like the skin-tight ski outfit. Because you can really see his legs and his butt. Like, it's really tight. And then Homer keeps thinking, stupid, sexy Flanders. That's what that Odin, stupid, sexy Odin.
Yes. Homer would be all about it.
It's a little weird, Odin.
That is much.
The huge head wings that he has.
Yeah. Wow.
So I don't know if you knew this, just like a couple episodes back, Spider-Man, if you recall, could make a bat out of webbing and have it fly down. Well, Thor can power spacecraft with his hammer. You probably didn't know that, but if he puts it in this thing, they must have made this device just for holding hammers that powers. It's a very specific invention.
Wow.
But it'll give them Godspeed. Get it? Godspeed. That's Kincaid made that joke. He's trying to he says, permit this odd mortal a weak pun. As long as you stop talking like that, sure, you can make a joke. It's also weird that Zeus is watching what's going on in a puddle. There's the Quinjet. He's has nothing better to do than spy on his son. He's like, I thought, Thor served out his punishment because he made him be tethered to the Midgardian Donald Blake as to humble him, kind of similar to the movie adaptation where he's sent to Earth as a punishment. And he's like, but I thought he learned his lesson by now. Why does he like being Donald Blake so much? Why? He's too attached to Midgard.
And Odin's too attached to those tight pants.
I tried removing them, but they're too tight.
Damn sexy pants.
So they're in space. They're going to this planet where this kind of Dungeons and Dragons looking character. He's it's the Palace of Blind Kamotharn. Kamotharn is this weird blindfolded person with
mystical.
He's got like a lion-headed staff, and that's the thing they had originally used to merge Sif and Jane Foster. So that maybe if we can get this staff back, we'll be able to find her. It's like you didn't
think
about that until you started getting accused of murder, and now you need to exonerate yourself.
Like you wouldn't have held on to it when she didn't reappear? Like,
yeah, you wouldn't be like, we gotta, it's been like 3 days, we really need to figure out how.
Where's the stuff?
It's like months later, you murdered her! It's like, oh, we were supposed to try to find her. I just got busy.
All this doctoring.
Yeah, there's been a few good movies that came out. I just got busy. I needed to catch up. The new Ant-Man is out. I needed to see that. I do like this panel, the zarp, zip.
Yeah.
Just a huge explosion. It's like, how did that guy survive? They just warned that he's going to get his ass kicked if
he's running back.
Yeah,
okay,
wouldn't you?
I believe you.
I do like the character design of these little spider characters.
Yeah, little fighting orbs.
So it turns out they're on the planet where the blind magic wizard guy has his staff. There's crash landed this species of metallic spider beings, and they were on like a prison ship that their planet had sent into exile.
Whoa.
And when they crashed, they killed all the prison guards. All the prison guard spider circles, and now these are all convicts. So it's like their little Australia, I guess.
Oh my
It's their own
gosh.
version.
I was just thinking that, like, if you were floating around in a spaceship and you came across something that looked like the prison in like Superman, the old movies,
Yeah.
would you
Break
with
it open? Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
You got to get the movie plot started. Yeah, it's like that in The Thing where they're in Antarctica, and the reason that the alien comes out is they find it like their ship encased in ice, and like, oh, an alien ship. And they thaw it out, and an alien comes out. I would at least call for help and be like, I found this. You guys thaw it out, see what's in there. Let me know later. I'll be across the world away from it.
Yeah, I just don't get that whole mindset of the people who poke something without
Or like
thinking.
in the alien movies, there's always the guy, they go to the alien ship and he's like, oh, look at this thing, and he's like bites his finger off or spits acid in his face or something. Yeah, don't be that guy.
Exactly.
They should use that at like OSHA safety training. So like, remember the guy who's always he always pokes the alien and it impregnates his face
If
or
the
something.
button is red,
That's
don't
like,
touch it.
Yeah, that's like not wearing your safety goggles. So you're being that guy. I also like that these talk. They have no mouths or anything.
Whoa.
But their whole motivation here to kill the humanoids is to get their spaceship. Then they can be free of this prison planet. And so they fight them for a little while. And Sif gets overwhelmed. But to his credit, Kincaid blasts him. He's like, oh, they got a bunch of guns on that ship. It's an Avengers ship. And there's a bunch of guns and weaponry on it. So I came to help. It's like, good thing he knew how to use it, right?
Right, yeah.
It's like, oh, a weird space age. What if it... How does he even know it's a gun? What if it was like some kind of teleporter or something?
Well, it looks like a Nerf.
What if it only shot Nerf? And she's about to die, and he's like, I'll get him! A little suction cup sticks to the spider. Maybe they wouldn't like that. Maybe that's their Achilles heel. So, Thor is also getting overwhelmed, so he's like, maybe I can call down the storm. I'm not sure, like, if the weather corresponds on this planet, if it has the right kind of atmosphere. But he's able to summon, like, a dust storm, which is native to this planet. So he whips up a bunch of dust and blows these guys away.
Mad.
I know, their little eyes. I didn't really notice that at first, but they've got, like, little jack-o'-lantern eyes. Only when they're mad. They need to show emotion somehow. So once he gets rid of all the spider creatures, they go find, what is his name? Kamotharn. They need the rune staff, but they find that he's been
He's
locked
tied
up by
yeah.
those spider creatures. They're like torturing him.
They need the taller spider creatures from Johnny Quest to come and...
That's what it reminded me of too. In the credits to Johnny Quest, they have the like Daddy Longleg looking sci-fi machine. So they agree that they'll free him if they can use that rune staff. I do like the design of Kamotharn's like house, his castle or whatever. This is the master library. Not any books in it.
It's a big Kindle.
This is what to store all the books on your Kindle, they needed this much hardware in the 60s.
That's 2 gigabytes.
Let's see. So he keeps it in this little sarcophagus, I guess. Sif goes to use it. I don't know how you use it. You just hold it, I guess, and you hold it over your head here. And the air is charged with emerald fire. That's a good panel. I also really like. I think my favorite panel was when the windstorm swept away all the spider creatures. I meant to say that when we saw that one. That's a good.
Oh, that's a good. Yeah.
Especially if you could take the word bubbles out, that would be a good poster or something.
Yeah, that's nice.
Anyway, and we're kind of left at a anticlimax here because, oh well, it didn't work. I fear she may be lost to us forever. She did the little energy ritual and to the rune staff, and couldn't find her. So they did the thing. I think what they're doing is like, maybe if we do the thing that caused her to disappear, she'll come back. Kind of like, I find myself with that logic, like when I've broken something, of like, well, I was pressing on this part of it, well, it stopped working, so maybe if I press on it again and reboot it, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense, and that's why she didn't come back. So maybe someday we'll get to issue 335 and we'll be able to figure out what happened to Jane Foster, but...
Wow. Okay.
For now, he might be going to prison. It looks like Thor.
Wow. So my book is Animal Man.
Damn, 91. That's crazy. 83 was the last comic. 91. That's not that long. That's 8 years, right? And it looks like a whole other type of...
and I don't know if it's me picking the covers or attracted to the covers of the complicated issues. So I wasn't familiar with Animal Man. So I looked him up on the DC Wiki page. And actually, there have been incarnations of him several times. And this is the writer, Peter Milligan. This is he had, was it a 6-story arc or something? But where he went and really talked about and explored quantum ideas. And multiverse and that kind of thing. And
I think I've heard that this comic is like that, where they like break the fourth wall, and so it's kind of like Deadpool in that way, where it's like self-aware that it's a comic.
It could.
Is that part of it?
It could be a cool movie, though. Yeah. So this is, to me, it made me feel like it was kind of like a origin story / the story's already begun, so you're a little bit behind, if that makes sense. It's like it goes back and it talks about stuff, but then something happened, like a couple chapters are missing. So I don't know if maybe issue 31 might have been.
We'll get a taste of the flavor.
Yeah, and I liked it.
I can't tell if it's just the age of the documents themselves that make it look so different comparing these, or the thing that pops out to me is that the color. The color is so much more, they're like deeper colors possible or something. I mean, in particular, this is a pretty black and white cover, but it really makes them seem like they're way further apart in the chronology.
Well, and I think the art style,
apart.
The art style really stands,
there's so many
in
more.
A way.
I guess the fine lines.
The lines
pop a lot
are finer.
more. We've got some fine line work here, but I don't know. Maybe it makes me curious about how the
bigger areas of color, though, too.
The publication process and how they might have changed their practices over time, because it looks drastically different eras, and it's really not that big of span of time.
Right. So we will begin. And as we open up, you see this kind of evil guy here. The angel mob will be taken to a research center, pulled apart piece by piece until we've got a handle on their abilities. But we couldn't have done it without you, Baker. And it's Baker. And so he's like, he's telling him that, okay, what's going on? Hang on. But I promised Lucinda they'd be well treated. You can't do this. So he was like double crossed, like helping them find this angel mob, quotations. But we can. But don't worry, they won't be lonely. You're going to join them. And he goes like kind of crazy. Like I didn't know who this character was. I'm coming in blind to this comic.
Right.
And it's
it
called
doesn't appear to be Animal Man.
Schrodinger's Pizza.
Oh.
And so you see him kind of like...
Because the cat is like whether it's alive or dead, right? So
yeah.
Whether somebody ate the pizza or not, I don't know.
And so, yeah, I'm like, Animal Man, is this the bad guy? Is this, I don't know.
Mullet.
And then you see this happening.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he's going back and forth saying, and the old ape is standing there and the young ape is going to he could take the old ape. And he goes, I move quick. Old Shaggy is too slow. A crack of his old neck bone. A strangled shriek and it's over. And he's screaming and stuff. I'm the king. It's like, what is going on?
I like the colors.
Yeah, I like the expression.
Yeah.
And the white lips are a little much, but and then that was him. And these guys are like, you've just assassinated the president.
What?
Yeah. And so they're like, well, now we got to take care of you. Like you tell the guy,
Yeah.
And then he goes to get his gun, turns back around. Oh, he's gone. And so he's up in the rafters and
crawling
stuff.
Like a monkey. Does he get the powers of like animals that eat?
That's the power of Animal Man, is in some incarnations is where he can have the power of animals. Like if he's with a bird or something, he can fly and he can.
He has to be near them.
I'm not.
Or he just has to remember what they were like.
I'm not all that positive. He's a really interesting character. But anyway, the other guy's like, there he is. So they're shooting. He's scooting along.
So he doesn't even wear this costume reliably? He only...
Not in this book.
Yeah, that's weird.
So, yeah. So that's why I had to look it up. Because it was like, So, and he flies out the window, hits this wall. And you see the glass falling. And the next thing you know is he's waking up. And then he's like, nowhere? Which I assume it's him.
I like that character design. Yeah. That's cool.
And this is the what is the writing technique where you take a sentence and then you cut it up and you
like the cut up technique.
Yeah, and like Burroughs did.
They call it the cut up technique.
Yeah, and so this guy, I think his name is Nowhere, and he talks like, "You're black, shiny, okay." So reading
That's his style of dialogue is like the cut-up technique.
He's like, Nowhere, relax, kidney. I picked you up outside the warehouse, followed Jones, figured a cold fish setup it was. You hit that wall so codices hard, you near broke into 2 Dresdens. So, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, his whole... And he's talking like, well, what happened? What about Lucinda? He goes like, what now, lamp chimney? So his whole thing is like that. And so they're talking and he's like, the ape man? Yeah, why not? Maybe it'll help clear my head. Guess it started around 1.5 million years ago, give or take a few millennia. So the story is this portal appeared. And in some point in time where these primate type creatures came upon it, and it was the future went back, apparently trying to do something, trying to figure something else, but a doorway to another time, the future probably, early our next century. And so they talk about it, and a few of them went through, and a few of the future people came back. But then, of course, violence always happens. And so the future people go to shut the portal, but one of them, the past people or past creatures are stuck. And so that gives him the ability to go into the jungle and then back. But when he comes back, he goes, maybe it happened differently, but I think that's the gist of it. The futures were chased. And one of the ape men got caught in the time doorway when they deactivated it, preventing it from being totally deactivated. This guy is nuts.
That's really cool. I like that idea.
He himself is cut up.
That's another thing that's so drastically different between these two comics is this one's a lot more intellectual.
Very, yeah.
Versus the more adventure style of Thor. Not that big of a distance, but you didn't see this style of writing until this era, really, where they were integrating other, references to kind of highbrow ideas like that, philosophy
or art form, literary art forms, techniques.
Or just these more experimental character designs. It's cool.
It's interesting. It would be an interesting movie like Sandman, how they made Sandman. This whole idea would be an interesting approach. I think that they could do it well with CGI.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, so he's talking, and what happens is that Buddy, that's him, when he goes to the jungle, if he comes back into like a universe where there is a Buddy, and if there is a Buddy there, that Buddy dies, and so he keeps killing them, and so he's trying to explain it
Buddy
to him.
Is the Animal Man?
Yes.
Okay.
And so he starts. What does he say? That's right, additions. Like he calls them additions of Buddy. So when he pops into a new universe, that addition of a Buddy dies.
Oh.
And
it's the multiverse idea that's popping up in so much stuff lately in pop culture. Much. That's funny that you picked this, because this is, what did we say? It was 91?
91.
It's funny how it seems like movie adaptations have caught up to this theme.
Yeah, 20 years ago. Yeah. Or no, 31 years ago. But then he's like, that's right, addition centipede, Schrodinger's cat. Cats like, tell me about the pandemic cat again. And
I knew about the freaking pandemic. Back in 91, they called it.
And he said, it's got to do with quantum mechanics, which basically says that nothing is real until it's observed. Light is particles or waves. It exists in both forms, but until you see it, that's what it is. That's the reality of it. And so he goes, drummer beats absolutely. He goes, a guy called Schrodinger came up with a kind of mental game to illustrate the absurdity of this. So he talks about the whole vial of poison in the cat and the whole theory of it. And then he turns it to pizza. Like, say you have this pizza and you have another, and the inside there's a packet of hot, what is that called? Hot pepper. Mm-hmm. And when it's closed, it could be mild pizza, or it could be that the packet was open and it's hot pizza. So basically both exist at the same time until you open that box. But then he talks about how it's really intense. I think had I read this back in the early 70s, my mind would have been blown.
I know. I was going to say I think the audiences for these comics are very different. This is like college age or high school or something, whereas I
would have been just like that.
That's what happened to him. He had too much philosophy. Do you remember this storyline? You probably. It was big when I was a kid. So
I love that drawing of Batman.
Yeah, in this storyline, it's right before he fights Bane for the first time and gets defeated. He gets addicted to the venom that Bane uses, and it gives him like rages or whatever. But he's like, it's like Batman's drug addiction.
Wow.
Storyline.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. I know, it's so 90s. Is to have that super muscly.
Muscle on muscle on muscle.
I know, his muscles work out.
It's amazing.
Even his muscles have micro muscles.
So he's talking about how he's weary of killing all of these buddies, and he wants to figure out, and he wants to get Lucinda out of the prison that those men had taken her to, and they don't really talk about who she is, and how wet shuffle, how did it happen, like Hiroshima, and so he talks, and now there are any number of buddies trapped in worlds that aren't theirs, because it keeps, and let's get this straight.
Oh, so they get transported to the world that he was previously in?
Well, because buddies can go to the jungle.
Oh.
So anytime a buddy goes to the jungle, it kind of makes two different realities.
Oh, okay.
So
because he's creating these different...
Yes. And it just keeps going. It keeps going and keeps going. And he saw the buddy you saw buried didn't. He slammed the door, but remember the pizza, hot and regular and superposition? I did and didn't enter the jungle. So it's like, holy jeez. So it's the jungle that makes you split express. Every time you go into the jungle, you split all terminal identity. No, we're all splitting all the time into different editions. So it's not just him. I mean, he's making it like the whole, we all create the multiverse. The jungle only makes it possible for you to run into one of your other editions. So that makes...
I like the zoomed out, abbreviated face versus the super
real
looking one. He's all cartoony there. He's like a little stick figure face.
Yeah. It's interesting. So they are coming up with a plan.
It really looks like a puzzle or something in some of these.
Yeah. I wonder if it's because it's his visual representation of cutting up his dialogue.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it didn't even occur to me, but yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it took a long time to even find something and about this comic book, about this rendition of him, and it's only like a paragraph.
Really?
So it didn't really give me much details. It's interesting, and this was in the dollar bin, so it makes me wonder if there's more, because they're still in the dollar bin.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
We'll have to find some more issues of this. I don't think we have any other Animal Man comics in our
Then we have
collection.
Angel and the Ape. Girls, gorillas, and a whole ton of trouble.
I was seeing that too. It's like, this character looks like Black Cat or something with the white hair.
Oh, yeah. And she kind of looks like, she's got bunny ears.
These remind me of that character from The Tick, Arthur.
Yeah.
The sidekick Arthur had those floppy ears. Use them off, though.
Yeah. So he okay, wait a minute, we gotta go back a little bit. And then, whoops, back a little bit too far. I couldn't keep killing buddies, had to wait till the time was right, a world where Buddy was already dead. When I followed you through the time door, I went into your universe. Earlier, I waited on the jungle for other buddies I knew were bound to come. I built that sign you saw for when it happened. So this must have been nowhere. Eventually, I was discussing in a prehistoric jungle my problem with another version of myself who entered the jungle later than I had. So yeah, that was another buddy. And that's how I got all that stuff about Schrodinger's cat and the many worlds theory.
I like the way his eyes popping out there.
Oh, yeah.
That's really cool.
Weird mightily. And then his face.
That's really goofy.
Yes. And there really are two pizzas in Shivering Junk Kid. They both exist. But they're just examples. A mental game, too. And then the pizzas. Did you see that? And then Lucinda, an illusion. She's giving us both the same vision. Oh, God, what are they doing to her? That's creepy. That's really primal. So he's like, okay, we gotta go get her. We gotta go save her. And hey, by the way, wash basin.
Looks like Tom Hiddleston could play him
Yes!
in that panel.
That's a great idea. Yeah. So they go. It takes them a little bit of time to get there and then to find a window that they can break into.
That's grotesque. I like this panel.
That's really
uh,
nasty.
Yeah, I like that.
That is, look at him. Like his legs are all chopped up. And
I saw that his hand was segmented once, but that's really cool.
I want to know more about his character.
Seems to be in flux. Like it's different every time we see it.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's like 4 there. He's only got 1 on his shin division
Oh, yeah.
that we can see. It changes. It's cool.
So they come in, and this is Lysinga.
Reminds me of the character you liked in New Mutants so much. The circuitry.
Yes,
Warlock, is that his name?
Warlock.
It's just like that.
And he talks a little
And that was from the
funky
80s, I
too.
think. So, hey, maybe they're not too different. Just depends on the genre and the writer.
Yeah. So he's shocked to see her. And she explains that they want to learn our little talents and be able to build better missiles or assassinate enemies of democracy at long range or spy on people easier and things. She says she looked into their minds, and I think I'd rather be me like this than them. And he wants to rescue her. He wants to save her. And she's just basically, and he's like, I need to get out of this universe, and I need to wake up in the next universe, because he keeps waking up and then not remembering things. And so she agrees if he takes these tubes out to plant memory or like a trigger in his mind, so that when he wakes up and somebody says something, he'll come right back out of the coma and have the memories.
Word.
Yes.
Do I look very gross? Be honest. Have they ruined my looks?
I know.
It's pitiful.
You can't tell by his expression. So he does, and she's going to basically do herself in once. So she plants the seed, and he leaves, and they walk away. Look at him all broken down now. He's like bricks.
That's awesome.
And so
It's like he's dissipating.
soon, Nowhere and I are outside. The night is dark. There's nothing to say. And then a dull explosion and a flash of orange light says it's all over.
I like this illustration. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
The Books of Magic.
Written by Neil Gaiman.
Gaiman, yeah.
Painted by Charles Vess.
He works with a lot of really great artists. Wow.
Ooh, that's a great panel.
Yeah. I
Cool
like how
explosion.
his
Really
hair
like this one,
pulls
too.
you right into it.
The contrast to the red and that like greenish blue. That's really nice.
This would be a nice graphic or
Frame
mural painted on your wall. So they take off, and he's like, maybe there's a bar somewhere around here where you can, because he's like, I go to the bathroom. The bathroom is where the portal is. Maybe there's a bar around the corner where you can. Oh, right. I see. The bathroom, the jungle. So he gives him a hug. So long, buddy. I'll miss you. He goes back to his home where his wife and children had been, and goes into the jungle.
The line detail on that.
He goes
saber-tooth tiger.
back in time and to where the ancestor is caught. And it says it takes everything he has, and he feels like nauseous and sick and stuff, and he pulls the guy out, and he's dead. And he goes, we don't bury him here. That's not our way. And he turns around, and my mind and body like an open wound, the exterior world like iodine burning. The little one who was almost a little meal for old Sabretooth. I think it has my eyes, though God knows where he gets those ears from. And he's, thinking about what he has to do, and he has to basically do himself in, because he can't keep popping in to universes that are already occupied by buddies. And so he goes way up to where he likes to sit and think. And
he's gonna kill himself?
Yeah, he has the ability to fly. And that's what he says.
How do you kill yourself? Doesn't your flying reflex kick in?
That's what he says. He goes, it's hard not to fly when you can fly and you're falling, but I won't fly.
Oh, wow.
And he goes, and then all of a sudden, you see this heartbeat. That's a cool way to...
Transition?
Yeah, transition.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then the nurse, I think he's waking up. And the art style changes. So, it's so...
It reminds me of
clean.
the chapter in Understanding Comics where he talks about... Do you remember where he talks about, since it's sequential art, there's like different categories of transitions, and some of them are like chronological or like spatial, or this one is like the what does he call it? It's like the non sequitur. 'Cause
Non
it's
sequitur.
like, how does that? Oh, it's a metaphorical like transition, metaphysical even.
Yeah, and now it's here things are gritty, and here and super real,
So
and
he was
here
just killing himself in his mind or something.
yeah, and the thing that he was planted in his brain was that he would wake up and the words Mr. Baker would snap him into okay, he's got his memories, everything is back.
His hair changes a lot. He had the mullet. It's like this part went up to the top of his head. He fell so
moving
hard
mullet.
it went whoa. His hair changed direction.
And
He's
his
a
wife,
funky looking kid.
yes, and his
He's got his
kids.
Bart Simpson shirt on though.
And yeah, so he wakes up, everything is good, everything is back to normal. His wife and kids, who I read in the wiki article about the character, is that in some renditions of him, his wife and kids are in the comics a lot.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's really interesting. And so they're talking like
they're more developed characters instead of just being like his backstory or whatever.
yeah, but his daughter is like, you're different.
You're all skinny.
Yeah. And so he's like, well, maybe you need something to eat. And he's like, oh, like a pizza in a box?
She just misses his mullet, I think.
So,
Look, his hair's all different now. It's like the mullet fell off.
oh, yeah. Well,
was,
he's all clean cut now. He can't be.
Metaphysical mullet.
Metaphysical mullet.
Yeah, you're like, you got way too philosophical when you had that mullet. You never hear people say that. Like, you were getting a little pretentious when you had the mullet. Could you...
Dial the mullet back a little bit.
Mr. Mullet with his frilly collars and his philosophy books.
And so we end with the prehistoric guy eating a pizza with a saber tooth.
I like that.
And I know, that might have been a rough way to talk about the comic. It was really interesting.
It's a dense one.
It is, for being, not a big, giant comic, it had a lot in it. It was really...
It was a dialogue heavy one, and a lot of the dialogue was like referring to
it was...
pretty layered concepts.
Yeah, it was almost Dada-esque in a way.
This is definitely like...
artsy. It's kind of artsy.
Maybe that's one thing that separates these eras is comics were trying to appeal to a different audience or branching out. I'm not trying to say everything before 91 wasn't
Well, right
as,
before
like,
him, it was Grant Morrison.
and he's known for doing more literary kind of like...
And then it went to
philosophical.
Peter Milligan here.
Well, I really enjoyed that. It makes me want to read more Animal Man, actually.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But,
that's our comics this
definitely.
week, guys. Let us know if you enjoyed them. And give us a like, follow, tell your friends about us, maybe.
share it, subscribe.
Share it, yeah. Let us know what you think. See you next week.